United Arab Emirates. Where is it? The United Arab Emirates, UAE, is a Middle Eastern country. The Middle East region is located at the hub of three continents: Asia, Africa, and Europe. Most of the countries in the Middle East are entirely in Asia, though some lie either completely or particularly in Africa and Europe. The UAE is entirely in Asia. It covers about 83,600 square kilometers of the Arabian Peninsula and shares border with Saudi Arabia and Oman. The majority of the UAE coastline runs along the Persian Gulf, which is called the Arabian Gulf by the people in the region. It flows outward to the Indian Ocean. A small part of its eastern coast lies directly on the Gulf of Oman. In all, the UAE has 1,318 kilometers of coastline. The UAE is a federation of 7 independent Arab states, which include Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah, Iman, Al Quwain, Ras Al Khaimah, Al Fujairah. Each state has its own capital city, which shares the name of the state. The federation's capital city, Abu Dhabi, lies on an island in the Gulf. Abu Dhabi, the UAE's second-largest city, dates back to 3000 BCE. Modern Abu Dhabi blends its ancient culture with contemporary architecture. The city has both stately white-domed mosques and shining skyscrapers. Northeast of Abu Dhabi stands the country's largest city, Dubai, which serves as a center of trade and tourism. Though both cities show off their wealth, Dubai shines brightly. It is home to the world's tallest building, the only 7-star hotel, and one of the largest artificial islands. People. Although millions of people live in UAE, most are not citizens. Immigrants make up a majority of the UAE's total population. Most hail from other Arab countries of South Asia and have relocated the UAE for work. The UAE citizens, called Emirati, are descended from the Arab tribes that settled the region long ago. Although these tribes have a history of rivalry, many share certain traditions. For example, most UAE citizens prefer to wear traditional Arab clothing. The men wear a long white cotton, ankle-length garment, a head covering, and a light scarf, either white or red checkered. Traditional women don 2 kids for dress. At home, they might wear a dress with loose pants. Outside, they must wear a dress modestly and usually wear dark clothes and use a scarf to cover their head. At times, women also cover their faces. The scarves have religious meaning but also serve as protection from the sun. Islam is the most common religion in the UAE. In 2005, Muslims made up the majority of the UAE population. In the UAE, most people speak Arabic, which is the country's official language. In schools, students learn modern standard Arabic, but most Emiratis also speak dialects of surrounding countries. Many people speak English as well. The UAE's biggest business, oil and construction, are traditionally male-dominated industries, And many of the foreign workers who move in the UAE are young men without families. Because these foreign workers make up so much of the population, more men than women live in the UAE. Men make up 2/3 of the total population. Land. On the coast, the UAE is hot and humid. Swamps and marshes trickly cover the land, while shoals and islands spot the coastline. In the east, the harsher mountains rise 2,000 meters. Overall, the country receives very little rainfall. The UAE's yearly rainfall amounts to just 10 to 15 centimeters, but what little it gets falls in the cooler mountain areas. The mountain makes up just a small part of the UAE. Inland desert makes up the majority of the UAE's geography. Here, the suns beat down even hotter than on the coast, with desert temperatures that soar as high as 49 degrees Celsius. Winds from the north sometimes blast the region with dust and sand, which carry for miles. These winds help create some of the world's largest sand dunes. Although most of the desert is unlivable, oases offer some relief. These desert areas are fertile spots that allow plants and some animals to thrive. The fourth largest city in UAE is Al Ain, which lies about 160 kilometers east of Abu Dhabi and has a population of more than 614,000. In the middle of the country is the largest UAE oasis, also called Al Ain, where fruit trees grow. In the desert, plant life is limited to grasses and thorny bushes, but in oasis, date palms, alfalfa, mangoes, and other crops also are harvested. The UAE's desert wildlife includes the Arabian oryx, Gordon's wildcat, sand fox, and sand gazelles. Overhunting has threatened some species, such as the Arabian oryx. With extinction, people came to the oryx rescue by taking the animals into captivity and placing them in breeding groups to keep the species going. History. Humans have lived in the Arabian Peninsula for thousands of years. Wandering groups settled in the area and eventually adopted Islam around the 600 CE. Over several hundred centuries, the Gulf became an important trade route linking Europe to Asia. In the 1600s, England established itself as one of the strongest powers in the region. In the 1700s, the Arab states that make up what we know today as the UAE began to form as sheikdoms, or areas ruled by leaders called sheikhs, which fought each other for control of the region. Britain took control of the trade routes in the region in the early 1800s. In 1820, Great Britain signed a peace treaty, or truce, with the sheikhs of coastal tribes. Later, these states signed additional truces, and the sheikdoms came to be called trucial states. In the mid-1900s, the sheikh in control of Abu Dhabi agreed to let British-owned oil companies look over the land. After several decades of searching, the oil company Abu Dhabi Marine Areas detected a large oil deposit in 1958. In the years that followed, the oil was also discovered in Dubai and Sharjah. The Fortune oil companies quickly began drilling in the crucial states, and the economy of the UAE improved dramatically and quickly. Due to financial problems, Great Britain was no longer able to afford to keep a military presence in the region. In 1968, Great Britain announced its plan to withdraw from the Gulf. The Trucial states, along with Qatar and Bahrain, decided to form a federation. So the negotiated to decide what the Trucial states would become. Qatar and Bahrain eventually decided to become independent countries, but 6 of the Trucial states joined together as the UAE in 1971. A 7th state, Ras Al Khaimah, joined in 1972. At this point, all the states had gained independence from Britain and became the UAE. The UAE is also a member of the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, along with Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Oman. The GCC works together on security and economic projects. For example, the organism has strengthened military cooperation between member countries. Landmarks. The Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi is one of the largest and most famous landmarks in the country. The mosque honors Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, who helped build the UAE's strong economy while preserving its Islamic culture. As a building that keeps the traditional domes of Islamic mosque style, the mosque symbolizes Islam's focus on respect, love, and peace. Emirates Palace Hotel, thought no home to royalty, is a landmark of Arab culture. In Abu Dhabi, marked by luxury hotels, the palace stands out. It is located on 85 hectares of landscape garden space and 1.3 kilometers of private beach property. The palace has 348 luxury rooms, 14 world-class restaurants, and a host of other offerings for visitors to enjoy. At an incredible 830 meters, the Burj Khalifa skyscraper in Dubai sets the record as the tallest building in the world. Unlike the Grand Mosque of Emirates Palace, Burj Khalifa is an entirely modern structure, while for the growing UAE represents the future of Dubai. Another world-breaking landmark in Dubai is Palm Jumeirah, one of the Earth's largest human-made islands. When viewed from above, the design looks like a palm tree. Originally built as the 8th wonder of the world, this first-class tourist destination houses 4,000 luxury villas and apartments, which some people have made their permanent homes. Parks and sky resorts are tourist spots in most places, but in the desert country of the UAE, their mere pressure, combined with their enormous size, makes them worthy landmarks. Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi is a huge indoor theme park at 86,000 square meters. At the first Ferrari theme park, Visitors enjoy thrill rides and drive miniature cars. Sky Dubai has loops, slides, and runs in its 3,000 square meter machine made snow park. Conclusion: the UAE has a long and interesting history. When oil companies uncovered its vast reserves, the UAE became a foolish economically, and opportunities were drew immigrants. As immigrants continue to move to UAE, the culture is constantly changing. While it holds onto its Arabic past, modern citizens remain ready to build the UAE bigger and better. The future of UAE looks bright.